welcome to Devolution introducing this time with where we're going to be putting the spotlight on some bands that have absolutely caught our ears and eyes over the recent months. And this band I came across on the recommendation of Dinner Celestial Birds, and then saw them kick 10 barrels of shit out of ArcTanGent this year in the most beautiful way. And so, can I introduce you to Fort? Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello. How
So
you doing?
we have Ben, Craig, Matthew, and Gavin, all present and correct. So, how are you
Yeah.
doing, guys? Are you still sailing off that amazing ArcTanGent experience?
It hasn't stopped really. No, keep thinking about it. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I'm trying to work out how long ago it was now. I guess like sort of
About a month
feel
or so.
yeah, feel I mean feel yeah, feels like in some ways like a lifetime ago, but it's been really good since, like in terms of people kind of engaging with like all the kind of social stuff and us just being able to quietly kick on and start thinking about what comes next. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know about the rest of the guys, but like, if I just find myself chilling for 5 minutes, I may like, we did a little highlight reel on our Instagram of all the footage because I was like, I want to be able to kind of like just be nostalgic at points. And like, I've definitely watched it back once or twice and just been like, okay, yeah, it was sick.
I've watched it twice as well.
It's all right.
I don't think I've actually watched it.
Oh, it's weird. It's a
I
great
haven't.
watch.
I'll have to go and watch it in a bit. I haven't seen it.
So, for all of you, one at a time, we'll start with Ben, then go to Craig, then Matthew, then Gav. What were your highlights of ArcTanGent apart from your set? Apart from your set, Ben.
Um, oh gosh, I don't know. El Muno probably. They're one of the first bands I saw there. One of my favorite bands at the moment. So yeah, it was really great to see them again. I really enjoyed IRS, Black Shape. I saw Silver Moth. They were really, really good. So I'm glad. It's great to see some bands I've never heard of before. Yeah.
Awesome. Same to you, Craig.
Um, Highlights. I'm gonna start with Delta Sleep. Because I'm just a huge fan, and to hear some of the new stuff was great. I'm gonna say Dinner Celestial Birds. I'm gonna say Hidden Mothers. Because they were fantastic on the Wednesday. And then I mean, like some of the headliners were class, absolutely. But for me, I've been just like I haven't been able to get enough of the Vower EP since
Oh,
it
yeah.
dropped. So they were on two after us on Yokai. And I was literally like, as soon as we played, like, I need to get food, I need to get back because I need to get and be front and center for Vower. And they killed it. They absolutely slayed. So yeah, those were some highlights for me.
How about you, Matthew?
I've actually got my list here. Just because I was like, I'm gonna forget all this stuff. So Meshuggah for me was fantastic. I just they're always phenomenal. I can never get enough of just ultra heavy music. Mogwai, who I've seen before, loudest band I've ever seen in a venue. They weren't as loud in the arena, which was nice, so my ears weren't bleeding. In the best way bleeding, Explosions in the Sky. I had a little moment that just an hour and 20 minutes of just pure post rock is just what you want, right? Just on that day. Unpeople, who are like probably my favorite band at the moment, just doing everything I want music to do. Just there's nothing they do that I just don't want to like just take and steal. Maybe not steal, be influenced by. Let's use that. Vower as well, fantastic. Dark Sleep. I'm kind of riffing off Craig's ideas, but yeah, it was similar taste in music. Those were the main highlights, but I think I counted like 29 bands. I saw it would have been more if we weren't like playing and setting up and doing interviews and stuff. Less than last year, but still a good turnout.
Gav, down to you now.
Well, I can't remember a lot of it. I drunk a lot of rum. But no, highlights for me were Caspian. They were fantastic. And
Of course.
when they finished with Sycamore and everyone was on the drums, that was great.
That was so good. They got
Yeah.
And So Watch You From Far Up, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
We
it's
saw it from
mad.
afar, both sets. They were great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't remember much of the Thursday or the Saturdays.
Well, you did it right then.
Did it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But it was a magical weekend for all concerned. It was a proper communal sort of mates fest for the bands that have been on the circuit in the last year, you know, because you'll know each other, quite a lot of you.
Yeah.
That was-
Yeah.
yeah, it's really
Yeah.
it's really heartening to see like this breed of I say the newer post rock acts, because you've all been around for a few years. But actually getting like, you know, this lift, and it's not just ArcTanGent, you know, there's festivals like Portals and Strange Forms, and promoters up and down the country are doing great things. But post rock's on a real rise at the moment. Do you feel this?
Anyone want to jump? Yeah, I mean, I'll go for it. I think you're right. I think like there's been a lot, as you say, we've been going for a fair few years now, I guess, sort of like active 2017, 18.
2018.
And 2018, yeah. And we don't count COVID. No band counts COVID. But I think that we started in a place where we knew what we wanted to do, and particularly in Wales, that wasn't necessarily happening at the time that we were kind of first coming out. My screen's gone really dark. I don't know why. But yeah, more recently, and there's, you know, like you say, there's the likes of promoters like, you know, Blowout, Connor, like, you know, Button Pusher, Marty in Nottingham, and these guys were really starting to take post rock up a notch again. But then the bands that we've been fortunate enough to cross paths with and become friendly with, as you say, the likes of Din of Celestial Birds, has been a great kind of, become a friends fest for us. They're super great guys, and obviously we kind of respect greatly what they do, and I think they kind of dig what we do, which is awesome. But yeah, there's more and more seems to be coming up, and as you say, there's a whole wave of post metal coming through as well, which is fantastic to see. And we have a little bit of like slightly heavier moments, so if we kind of occasionally kind of fall into some of that crowd as well, that's great. But it seems to be a real, quite a positive time for post rock, post metal. Absolutely.
It does help that Damnation as well as doing the whole post rock thing, which I think is like a lot of people would like. People always say that post rock is like listening at home music, just in the background, you're doing some work. But like when these people go and see bands, especially at Damnation, where it's generally a heavier festival, and they see these post rock artists on stage, they actually realize, oh no, like it is like beautiful and chunky and heavy, and like the stage presence of a lot of post rock bands. It does lend itself live to the live environment, even without the words.
Yeah, I mean, there's bands like June as well, who sort of like straddle those worlds quite well, you know. So you do get a crossover definitely into the metal audience. So next question is, over the water where the crowds grow. Sorry, speech impediment going there. Over the water where the clouds grow. Yes? Right. That's been out since August. How's the response been on that?
Yeah, it's been really good. I think people are kind of gravitating towards it quite a bit because of how it sounds like we do live. If I get my words out right. But it's also with the piano track in the middle, it's kind of like the light and the shade of what we do. So I think it's quite. I can't even think what I'm saying now.
Well, was it programmed that way? So you had that respite in the middle?
Yeah. The idea was to have that kind of breath in the middle. Yeah.
Go, Matt.
Go on,
no,
go on.
you go. This
I was
happens.
talk
I knew
about...
this. You talk. No, I'll.
You guys talk because I'm shit at it.
It was kind of written. So I wrote a bunch of it just for like my own purposes, because I write a lot of like, I'm not gonna say like classical music, because it's definitely not classical music, but more like piano and orchestral stuff. I do a lot of that writing on my own. And I was like, why don't we just bring a bit more of this to Fort? Because a lot of post rock has that sort of symphonic element. Not to say that there's like what 4-string tracks. It's not a lot, but there is the piano track and there is the strings. So I thought, let's write some bits without drums as the drummer, which is dangerous because like, whenever I do writing, it's just like we need to put some big drums in there. But it was more of a challenge, and that fit really well in with the other 2 tracks because you've got this like really, really long and epic, and at parts like heavy, like 9-minute mammoth, and then there's this nice little respite. It's like a little pause, like a little rest at the bonfire, and then oh yes, no, they're the other way around. We play them the other way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 3 of Swords, which is heavier. I'd say it's heavier than Beacons. Would you?
Yeah,
Like it's full on all the way through, whereas Beacons has got like more like rests. So yeah, other way around, exactly what I said, just reverse it.
That's fine.
I was looking at the Spotify, and I was like, yeah, just go listen to it. It's great.
Yeah, so when I spoke to you at ArcTanGent, you were saying that there is actually more new stuff in the works, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, that is true. I think we had a couple of interviews after our set, and everyone asked that really important question, which is like, what's next and what are you kind of thinking about? And I didn't want it to be anticlimactic by saying that we were going to go deliberately a little bit quiet, because I think I'd mentioned that like our discography to date was like a double A side when we first came out, 2 EPs, and now this 3-track single / EP. And we've always wanted and felt now is the time to write an album. We like, the ideas are, there's a heap of them, but we want to make it a real kind of thought piece that runs through and has kind of that sort of through line, and really, I guess, take a little more time over it than we maybe have previously. I mean, in that, I mean, we've been a band that's been trying to build a following, right? So we were like, okay, let's get EPs out, let's keep momentum, and and similarly, some of the conversations around the latest stuff was that I remember having conversations with people who were like, hey, that's fantastic, you got ArcTanGent, are you releasing anything around that time? We were like, we weren't going to. We'd started writing these kind of things, but then we sat back and looked at what we did have, and we were like, we could turn this into something really cool and align it with and do a whole thing, and we feel like that's paid off. But there are more ideas in the bank. We've said shows by exception for the remainder of this year, and I think we're going to be heavily in the room with the idea of kind of looking to step into a studio, hopefully within the first quarter of 2025, maybe. So probably a longer window than we have previously. It is ambitious. I know.
It's very ambitious.
I'm saying it out loud and being like,
yeah. I think it's ready. It's going to be ready when it's ready, right?
Yeah. I always say that, like, I know from being a musician myself with releases on the way that aren't important to this interview, but yeah, you kind of want to say, oh, it'll be here at this time, but then it's like inspiration has a habit of drying up on you sometimes, and then bursting out of you at other times. So, and you can't really put a clock on that.
We take it to do anything.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, indeed.
I think there's also discussions about something additional separate to that album that might take shape, but we're exploring that at the moment. But yeah, our sort of idea, at least within, I'll say that we aim to record in 2025. Does that work, Matt?
That's fair. Yeah, I like that.
That's fair. At some point in the next 12 months.
Yeah, exactly. There might be a single out. We might get a single out. Who knows? Like pre-album.
I was discussing the other day with a band. They were like, "Oh, we don't know if we can mention this in the interview. Don't know if we can mention it." I said, "I can hold the interview until you're ready to mention it, and then you can just speak freely."
You'd be waiting a while.
Yeah. Like a year.
Absolutely. Right. So with that in mind, and you mentioned just then, Craig, about through lines. I found this quite interesting when I'm speaking to post-rock bands, especially instrumental ones. and I was talking to, it was Year of No Light, about how you can have a narrative with instrumental music.
Yeah.
And they were explaining, like, it's basically the language of the music does your narrative. So you'd have repeating motifs and things like that, or or just general light and shade and stuff like that. And you can do a lot through track titles, I guess. So is that something you're looking to do with the album, like to have a through line, to have a narrative?
Yeah, I think where we are at the moment in terms of there are like a multitude of ideas musically that we've all kind of been starting to kind of share, whether it's in like audio note form and all the rest of it. I think I guess the idea is that we would have a conscious awareness of trying to do this during composition, I guess. So we've probably written songs. Well, we've written songs in relative isolation in terms of this is a song. For the first time on the EP that most recently came out with that middle track, Gav did some really fun stuff by interpreting lead lines from the main two songs and modulating them into the piano track in the middle. So like there's a nice little through line that happens there, and I think we want to explore possibly more of that. But it's a really interesting concept in some ways, isn't it? Because I think, and so I watched From Afar's new album, they've said like the whole basis is like a love letter to Belfast and like their hometown. I remember like you think about that as a concept and go, it's crazy twiddly riffs. That's really interesting to think how they've done that to serve that purpose or tell that story.
It's also interesting because I can hear it.
I
suppose once that seed is implanted in your head that it's about this, then you do hear it in the music. You just need a word or an idea in your head, and you go, oh, right, okay. Because with the name megafauna kind of conjured up images of wild landscapes and stuff like that. So you're already there. You're in the moment. And that's the interesting thing I wanted to talk to you about as well is, do you find it more liberating, the lack of lyrics, than to have them? Because you write in a completely different way. I was discussing this with And So I'll Watch You From Afar, which was that it's almost like the same way dance music is written, where it's peaks and valleys and rises and dips and whatnot. You're telling a story in a totally different way. Do you find that was the attraction to doing instrumental music?
I think so, yeah. With when I wrote Ouroboros, well, the first demo of it, that was basically a dance song. It had horns.
It had synths. Your MIDI file.
Yeah, it was horrendous. Funny. But I had in my mind how I wanted it to go, and all the chords and everything were there. And it took about 9 months to get Craig to agree on it. Once Ben
agreed on it, yeah, because Ben was like, "Oh, I could sort of rejig this on the guitar," and we heard it. And we were like, "Actually, no, yes, there's some really good ideas.
We got something there."
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the best ideas are like that, though. Like what I've gone into tracks before where I've literally been humming something in my head, then wrote something around it, and then just took the original humming out of my head, and then I had a structure of a song there. It's really weird how you could get inspiration from things like that. Nothing's throwaway. Is what I always said to people. No. Like, keep everything.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I've got a hard drive with just called Ableton Sessions ? And it's just loads of just I'm gonna have to use
and nothing's labeled properly, is it?
No, on the drive, on the Google Drive, it's labeled well, but everything is just like 24th of March _ BPM, whatever.
Mine are just random keystrokes for the titles of everything. So I got to actually go in
_
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think I was getting. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, you carry on.
I was just going to say very quickly. I think you're right though in terms of, and like Ouroboros is a good example because it's remained quite dancey. But I think we've had this discussion before that you do write in a different way, but I guess predominantly for post-rock you can write in quite a specific and predetermined way, and we try to be conscious of that because there is crescendocore, and we talk about Explosions in the Sky, and bands of that ilk can absolutely live for it. And as Gav mentioned about Caspian, like I can't believe I didn't mention them in my highlights. Like my wife and I, it's a favorite band, and they blew us away. But you can fall into that trap. And I think we were talking about this recently, being like, oh, it would be incredible to do something as grandiose as what Caspian do. And it's like, but Caspian are there doing that, and they're smashing it and they're killing it. So like, we're also trying to make sure that maybe occasionally, and I think it's evident in some of our tracks, that it might make sense to let's bring those chords around another 16 bars, but we're like, no, actually, let's change it and go somewhere else. So we try to, even within the genre that we do, try and make sure that we don't maybe either play safe or just go, oh, this would work because it's the most logical step. Try and keep ourselves guessing as well, I guess.
That's a really interesting word you've used there, crescendocore, because like I have found myself sometimes at these gigs going like, is it another song that starts really quiet and ends really loud? I presume that's what you're talking about. Like,
yeah, and as I say, I absolutely love it, and it's a big staple of the genre that we kind of fall into. But I think we try to be conscious of that, and maybe just try and bring in new elements and challenge ourselves. And as I say, there's so many bands out there who are incredible at that and have been for a long time. So like, can we do something that is a little bit different for better or worse?
we do have a couple of tracks that do that. But I know a lot of bands, it's like their thing, right? They just do that, and then that's the song.
Yeah.
So like, even some of our songs are even like almost a verse chorus, bridge, chorus, which is fine. Like we have some of those songs, but then we've got other songs which are just like almost like through composed. Like there's no middle section. I mean, time wise there is a middle section, but we haven't written it as a middle section.
Yeah.
And there's nothing's really off the table. We're just I think it was Square Root. We were just like, oh, what if we do this bit here? We're like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's just put that in there. Why not? And there's been a couple of conversations where some like members have gone, oh, this doesn't really sound fought, and we'll be like, it doesn't matter, we'll make it fought. If we don't think, oh, is it too light or too heavy, or is this are we going too mathy? Doesn't matter. Like we'll just write the song and it'll become our sound. And I think that's great about being an instrumental band, because a lot of bands, when you hear them, you hear the vocals, you hear the lyrics, and you're like, oh, that's Knocked Loose because it sounds like Knocked Loose, or it sounds like System of a Down because of his distinct voice, and that the distinct characteristics of the voice makes it that band. But we don't have distinct characteristics of a human voice. We have like the characteristics of how we play and the sounds of our instruments, and that becomes our sound then. I think that's like great about instrumental music. And you do also find that with a lot of other instrumental bands. You can kind of like, if they release a band releases a new track, you can kind of tell it's them, but it's something new, which is just the best thing about instrumental music.
Absolutely. I was thinking about this the other day, because I was thinking, like, because obviously, you'd think with the amount of notes we've got and the amount of time we've got to do it in, that everyone would sound the same. But it really is down to the individuals. It's down to the players in the band and how you approach your instrument. And it's as personal as your fingerprint. In a lot of ways, like the way you play might be a little heavier handed than the way somebody else plays or whatever. And that's how you get your dynamics. That's how your sound is made. It's a very personal thing, isn't it? Otherwise, every band would sound like every other band.
Exactly. And we're also not we don't have the time constraint. Like a lot of like rock bands will be like, oh, it's got to be like 4 minutes, like no, like 5 at a push, and then people are gonna get bored. But we're just like, it doesn't matter. Like we just go as long as we think the song should last.
Oh man,
I think like what's our, we have some like,
we still draw breath was one, and we got to the end of writing it, and I was adamant that I wanted to add another minute and a half to it of just full on chords.
Fine.
Our shortest song is Three of Swords the shortest one, or is it? Is it? So that's 3:55 is our shortest song.
Oh, that's
and I think
pop.
it's a pop song, right?
Yeah.
And I think our longest one is like almost 10 minutes. So it doesn't matter like how long our song is. I love that.
Sleep did Jerusalem, and that was 45 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
then,
it, isn't it? You're like, if you're worried about time, you'll never be Godspeed, so it's all right.
I was just about to say Godspeed as well.
Yeah. But I think it's a really interesting point. I was talking to Matt from Dinner Celestial Beers about this because, like, bass player in Din, and you're right in terms of how you play, and you get that certain characteristic because he's a phenomenal bassist.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I remember we did that run with Din and Ranges, and he was like, oh, he plays fingerstyle and he's all over the fretboard and he's great. And I take the approach of playing bass like Mark Hoppus, and I just use a plectrum and just play root notes. And he was like, we're talking maybe in Cambridge. He's like, oh, I love the sound of your bass tone. He was talking about how percussive it is, and I was just like, I just hit the strings really hard. I think that's about it. But it does bring a different sonic quality, I guess, to it. He's also just being very nice because he's a lovely gentleman. But
he is a lovely gentleman.
But you're absolutely right. And I think, lastly on this very quickly, with the new And So I Watch From Afar record, I'm not sure if it was like a new pedal or something. Ben and Gav would know about this, but some of the playing on the new And So I Watch From Afar record, some of the leads, it felt really Covet, really Yvette Young, and it's like a certain fuzzy distortion that they've brought in, but it reminded me of Covet and Yvette Young. But even though I may have had the artwork up, I was still like, those are still the parts of And So I Watch From Afar, even if they've got some new fuzzy fancy pedal going on. But it still, it felt sonically different to maybe some of the tones they've used previously, but still very much them.
Yeah.
Which is probably in the playing, as you say.
Absolutely. I mean, the sonic fingerprint, as we were talking about, is like it's something I've been talking to a lot of songwriters about over this summer, about different approaches and stuff like that. And I've had some wildly different answers to the question, how do you approach songwriting? And one of which was quite incredible, which was from a death metal band called Nile, and they said they wrote the lyrics first and then thought, what would these lyrics sound like?
That's great.
That's sick. Yeah.
So yeah, some really interesting approaches to songwriting. So you all write sort of individually first and then bring it to the collective. Is that correct?
That's it's like someone. Sometimes we'll have like fleshed out ideas. Like Ben's really good at bringing like fleshed out ideas. Like he'll have like a bunch of guitar parts. And then sometimes we'll write in the room, we'll just jam. Sometimes like, Gav will have an entire song like ready on his with his MIDI sections. I think the most fun ones was it Bridges that we just like jammed the whole thing and just added parts in the room. Yeah. And that's my favorite song. My favorite fourth song. So I think playing collectively in the room is like my favorite way of writing.
Oh, the jam room approach. I do
the
like
jam room approach.
Yeah.
I still think that that song, Matt, Bridges, I feel you hear that in the listening, that it feels more organic, that it felt like. But I think I always talk about this, that like we will, as any musician does, like you'll come up with ideas, your guitar's in your corner of your room, and I think I want to do more of bringing ideas to the room and doing that, exploring them and fleshing them out. But because the reason I say that is obviously we've had the years we've had from like 2020 onwards, that I think we released 2 EPs during various stages of lockdown. So I remember at one point we were just writing in isolation and sending tracks because that's all you could do. So I think some of the stuff we've released have been maybe a bit more that way, because everyone was in the scenario they were in. So I think we've done a bit more with the newer stuff, but I think in terms of, like I say, when it comes to an album, particularly if we try to do something more expansive with returning motifs and things like that it's, I think Matt's right. The best way for us to achieve that and explore things would be more in the room, I think.
I just wanted to return to something you said earlier about bass playing. You were talking about with Matt, and one thing that came across quite hugely at ArcTanGent was the validity of every type of music available there. So you were saying the way you play is more like Mark Hoppus, whereas Matt's a genius. We know. But he plays on my new record as well. But the interesting part of it was at ArcTanGent, how you could have a band like Animals as leaders as the like support to the headliner on one night, under Meshuggah, and then in the same spot on the next night. So you've got the hyper futuristic, like, 8-9 string guitar, whatever it was, percussive fireworks. And then the next night you had the most primitive band, Electric Wizard, doing like some full on, summoning the devil. Like, it was the most evil thing ever. And it was like just 3 chords at one point, and it just felt the most evil thing I've ever heard. I can see Ben nodding your head. What have you got to offer on this? Simplicity over complexity.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely more my speed. I think low and slow, but it is awesome to be able to see the whole gamut, like you said, at ArcTanGent, and it's a really broad church, and I think that's what makes it so special. And everyone's like really, it might not be necessarily the kind of thing you normally listen to, but then you're there and you see it and you go, actually, this is really cool. And getting that opportunity to see all these different bands, like, I never thought I'd get to see Electric Wizard. So being able to see them, like you say, on the same stage as Bosk, was absolutely incredible.
I mean, there's a lot to be said for atmosphere as well in music. I was explaining to someone the other day about, they were saying, it doesn't irritate you that black metal's got such like nasty lo-fi production. I'm like, that's an extra instrument as far as I'm concerned. That is as important as the guitar riffs, is the dirty production, because that's how you get the frostbitten coldness of it. So I think there's a lot to be enjoyed in the sonic palette, especially for a band like yours. You could go any which way you want, really.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Like, the next stage of the big chunk of writing that we're going to do, we have so many like ideas that are either written down or in our heads that we could do some like crazy, like, they're probably going to say no, blast beats, or we could just do some like slow things. I could see some head shaking, but it's going to happen. You can't.
Hey man, I saw Agriculture. I saw Agriculture the other day, and they did major key black metal. And
so about that,
it was like shoegaze with blast beats. It was just, it has been done.
That Matt, and I'm with you. I said you play them, I'll turn up. You play blast beats, I'm there. But that's funny. I mean, and you're right, because like Beacon's the like 9-minute song off the latest release. I said that like that idea from me started as like a bit of an ode to Sunbather era Death Heaven, which doesn't. But it was the softness with like, and then when Matt started talking about like double kick and this big expansive bit, I was like, oh, so, and then Gav, you wrote those they're kind of like, I don't know, classic rock kind of Queen-esque descending chords that becomes that whole last section. For me, I was like, oh, it gives me that kind of slight Death Heaven vibe. But that's exactly it. We're kind of, as we've said, I think we've got pushes and pulls to be like, do we go heavier? Do we change it completely? I mean, it's the ideas are starting to point us in a direction where we think we know where we want to go, and the discussions we're having. But it's exciting, and as you say, there's opportunities to go many places with the genre, which is good.
Absolutely, man. And the only boss at the end of the day is the song, as I always say to people. Like, you do what serves the song. The song's the boss.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Well, on that note, it's been nice getting in depth with you guys. This has been an absolute pleasure. And and you're going to be deep in your album cocoon for a little while, with a couple of live performances maybe dotted about. Is it right? Yeah,
we've got a couple dotted here and there.
Literally today. And by the time this goes out, we'll be doing a Cardiff show, which is fun. So a hometown show for us in October, so not too far away. And that'll be supporting Hubris, which we're really excited for. So the Switzerland-based post-rock. I freaking love them. So I think they released 2023, that album, the new one, the one above. It's like 4 songs. Gives me like the Pine vibe. There's 4 songs. They're all like 12 minutes long. So it's similar to like what Pine doing with the new record. But yeah, so we're kind of come up for a breath of fresh air from the room and do a hometown show. So we're main support to Hubris. A band called AV Sunset are also on that one. But they'll be few and far between, I think, for the remainder of the year. But yeah, we're maybe one or two left to materialize and announce. But yeah, next one is going to be Thursday, October 3rd in Cardiff.
Right.
Tiny Rebel.
Cardiff,
Tiny
where,
Rebel.
of course, I make the sauces with the company in Cardiff, Chili of the Valley. So Dinner Celestial Birds sauce actually came out of Cardiff. So there we are.
I guess so did the artwork as well for it, kind of Cardiff.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, Gav did the artwork, right?
Yeah.
And spectacular artwork it is. Oh, by the way, Gav,
Thank you very much.
Did you pick up one of those lovely pink T-shirts at all?
I did. I wear it with pride as well.
Lovely. Lovely. I want one, but they said they'd do me one in blue.
Oh, the pink is great. The pink is absolutely
The
phenomenal.
pink is great. I just can't think of a time when I'd wear it.
There's a tie-dye black one somewhere as well.
Oh, lush. That sounds more like my thing. Right, lads. Thank you so much for being with me today. And best of luck with all the songwriting and creativity. I can't wait to hear it. Anyone you want to shout out before you go? At all?
Shout out to your lovely self for giving us the time and to speak to us. Again, following our chat at ArcTanGent, so that's we really appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's been lovely talking. I very quickly will shout out post-rock band Aronson from Cardiff, who people should check out. They're good friends of ours, and yeah, they're a class band. And then I'll pass over. Some other people can shout out.
Ben, any shout outs?
I was going to shout out Aronson as well.
And me.
Oh, you've got it.
I will shout out Revenant, who is Matt's other band with Latif,
thank you.
who was with us at ArcTanGent. They're great. Hopefully their new record's coming out soon. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
Penny Rich. They're a good band. Cardiff.
Penny Rich.
Yeah,
yes.
check them out.
Yes.
And James Scarlett for putting us on ArcTanGent, I guess.
Oh, nice.
Otherwise this wouldn't have happened.
Well done.
Nice.
Someone's got to do it. Thanks, James
That's you
Scarlett.
booked for next year.
Shout out James. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that's good. That's good coverage. One more. I'm going to shout out Cops. I'm wearing Cops today, but they just put out their 2 EPs together on vinyl. We played with them in February with Hidden Mothers. They're like full, Def Heaven, but no major key, and just very, very brutal, and they're class. But yeah,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to shout out the band I'm going to speak to tomorrow, which is New Ghost. So I'm going to shout out them. New Ghost from Sheffield.
Sick.
Right, guys. Well, thank you very much for being with me, and we'll call it a night. Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much.